They will, and they, can't be afraid of Razan as well here, Dratnos. Early pull, it's going to set the tone for the rest of the match.
Yeah, we've seen that strategy of snapping your tank to Razan be both very rewarding and very punishing if it goes wrong. So that is absolutely what we're going to be looking at here. Peak lives claimed 6. That is something that could definitely be repeated here if the snap goes even slightly wrong. It is a huge amount of pressure on a 5-second, portion of the dungeon when that snap happens. If that does work out, though, then it is a huge amount of count all taken care of right at the start of the dungeon. So it really turbocharges the start of the run for both teams.
Atal is definitely one of those dungeons.
It's just like breakfast, Tettles. It's a great start to your day.
Exactly, and Atal is one of those dungeons where, like breakfast, it's either a 10-minute dungeon, but one mistake and it goes horribly wrong, and now you have a bad day for the rest of your day because your breakfast was not good.
Yes, much like breakfast.
Okay. I don't eat breakfast.
You should eat breakfast, Tettles. It's the most important meal of the day, all right? And this might be the most important match of both of our teams, MDI lives right now as we're getting started. Ethical is down 1 against Perplexed and facing elimination as Atal'dazar gets going.
Alrighty, so we have both teams running it down mid. Divine and Skylark both grabbing a significant amount of mobs. Here they are going to be snapped to Razan with all of those mobs. The Binding Shot gets instantly procced on both sides, making sure that those Sards and the Sky Screamers are not going to be moving. All of those Sards get immediately blown up by both of the DKs as they drop their Death and Decay. And Razan his health is also plummeting very quickly.
Oh my goodness, look at those damage numbers from both teams. That is completely ridiculous. Great job by both teams of surviving here. Oh my gosh, though, Perplexed has pulled some more. Perplexed has pulled the mid pack with this. Ethical does not look like they've done that, but Perplexed, yeah, you can see those dinosaurs in here. This is a massive pull here that is going to reward them with a huge amount of extra count if they can survive, but that is a lot of extra abilities to keep going on for such a long time into this boss fight as well.
So we've seen different strategies which involve pulling the mid pack and which involve not pulling the mid pack, and leaving that mid pack up normally gives your healer less room to be able to kite in a solid direction. So if Ethical is going to commit to leaving the mid pack up for the whole entire duration of the dungeon, we're going to need to see how Chompy is going to path once he is kiting those awakened mobs around.
Yeah, you can fight the mid pack later. That's what we've seen like Complexity Limit do, right? Where you snap it with some swords and stuff in the middle of the dungeon. So that is another option for how to deal with that trash. But yeah, Ethical gonna finish Razan first, clean up these last 2 Sky Screamers. They will be substantially behind in terms of count, though, against where Perplexed is at, given that mid pull just gave them so much extra count there. That is a 9% differential in exchange for a 10-second timing difference. So I think I like Perplexed side of things, although really in Atal'dazar, this dungeon is just so quick that 10 seconds can be a really huge deal as well.
Yeah, and 9% enemy forces count. Also, is that going to equate to 1 additional pull?
Look at this though. Perplex has found a way to they just got here just as fast as Ethical. They somehow they started this pull at just the exact same time, whereas Ethical needed to sit around for a little while. Ethical though, I think may have 2 Colossi in here. I'm not quite sure.
Yes. Ethical definitely has 2 Colossus in here. Look at where Arrow is standing. So there's typically your ranged DPS will end up standing in snap spots to make sure that the Juggernauts are not leaping out of melee. Arrow has found a unique snap spot. Shape is going down. Arrow started to drop. Oh, this is so bad for Ethical.
They are in massive trouble. Arrow goes down as well.
Their problems are bigger than this Colossus right here.
And those Colossi are quite large. Oh no, they're going on a rampage, Tettles.
Run, Chompy!
Chompy is in grave danger, and one of those Colossi is extremely angry with him. He does manage to juke it, though, doing a spin move and getting out of there, but Skylark, unfortunately, has perished to the other one. It does go down eventually, but Chompy is forced to kite here, and this is a huge time loss on the side of Ethical. And that was a bigger pull that they were obligated to do because they didn't have that extra count that Perplexed had from doing the mid-pack with Razan. So, it kind of looks like one team is not doing a risky strategy, but really it's just a question of where you put your risk in the dungeon, right? If you want the same speed route, you need to take basically the same amount of risk. And it's just a question of which pulls you put that risk in. And for Ethical, where they assigned theirs, it did not quite work out for them.
Even still, they didn't have a full team wipe, and this Colossus ended up going down. So they're still within striking distance because, like we were talking about in the pre-match show, while this dungeon if it's ran perfectly as a 10-minute dungeon, if you have one mistake, then you're set back such a significant period of time if you have a monumental or a colossal mistake. Ethical's mistake, while it did contain Colossus, was not colossal.
Yeah, it's going to cost them. So it's going to cost them those 25 seconds on the deathometer, and I think it's also going to cost them something like 45 seconds of boss here. So somewhere in the 1 minute range, I think, has been lost by Ethical.
Oh, Eri.
More with Eri going down. They do have battle res available. Somehow they managed to save that from that Colossus pull, so they're going to be able to get him back up. Still, though, this is looking sloppy from Ethical. However, Perplexed has been much farther ahead than this in an Atal'dazar that I can remember from yesterday. And they were able to still lose that game. So, it's not over till it's over. Ethical definitely in a position now where if the entire game goes perfectly for Perplexed, Ethical is going to lose. But Ethical is very much able to keep themselves within striking range of one mistake here from Perplexed. And that is what they need to make sure they do.
Atal'dazar obelisk kiting is just kind of a gamble, too, from what we saw from Perplexed yesterday. And I hope that they have gone back into this dungeon, gone back into their lab, and devised a strategy to be able to make their kiting more consistent.
Yeah, it's so hard because it's the kind of thing where you can get it to work 50 times in practice, and then you just get to the tournament day and you mess it up 3 times in a row. You're just like, I don't really know what was different, but something didn't quite work out about it.
Perplexed, 100% trash count. And according to our stats at the top of the screen, the deathometer is a technical term. Probably.
Yep, that's a feature we're working on. We'll have that in the UI soon, the deathometer. Actually, I guess we have that. It is just the death tracker there. All right, Perplexed.
Does it give probability too?
Perplexed is having an incident here. They are going to be having
could be worse.
A little addition to their own deathometer here. That is Divine going down as during the skip here. Not quite going to work out for them. His Shadow Meld or something just didn't quite go through. They're going to be pulling Volcall, but that was slightly, something like a 20-second loss, I would say.
I think that death on Divine is okay relative to where they are in the dungeon compared to Ethical. While obviously not ideal, they're still in a position to be able to win as long as they don't have like a wipe or a full reset on a boss. We've seen weirder things occur in the MDI before, but at this point, it would take basically a full team wipe and a reset of a boss for Ethical to be able to catch back up in Perplexed. Because it's a 10-minute dungeon.
Yeah, so Ethical has their 100% count as well. They'll be pulling Volcall about 1 minute after Perplexed does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. They're not in range to catch up by faster, DPS or anything. Oh, unfortunate Skylark getting stunned while trying to do this run. And oh no, he's gonna perish as well. Ooh, the skip's not looking great for either team here through this section.
Yeah, Skylark doing his Divine Field impression on that run, unfortunately.
That's just the level of respect that these competitors have for each other, is they really try and mirror every action that their counterparts make. I keep talking to die. Alright, we have Perplexed. Almost finished up here with Volcall. Volcall, of course, a boss that does actually do some damage to itself. Not as much as it used to. It was patched going into, I think, Season 3 to no longer just, entirely murder itself in a high key setting, but still, it is doing some damage to itself. That is something that makes it a little bit easier, this part. They need to be a little bit careful of where they finish this fight, because when this fight ends, that gate immediately goes down, and there are, of course, some angry reanimated honor guards outside that they do not want to get in combat with.
Yeah, but they are going to just mount up and be pulling them to be able to group meld here in a second anyway, so...
oh, they're not even mounting together. Just fired off the old sky step through.
Fear.
Great job there. We saw the stealth on those 2 stalkers, but Divine managed to do a good job of not actually getting stunned by them. Had that happened, then I think we may have again been looking at a dead tank for Perplexed. They've started that RP now, and the rest of the group, all on those mounts. Divine uses the meld and then eats the food, and they're now going to be getting through.
So this is exactly what we saw from Perplexed yesterday, where they were in the driver position. They were getting ready to gear up to pull Yasma. They need to really make sure, and Zamak needs to really make sure that he's able to maintain threat on all these awakened mobs and make sure that his kiting is immaculate. Being able to maintain threat against, being able to maintain threat against double DK on Yasma can be kind of daunting, but Zamak needs to make sure he does it to be able to solidify this match. So here you got the Soul Rend coming out. Zamak is going to para this first Soul Rend to add that ends up spawning onto him. He can also heal himself right here to be able to generate some more healing threat. You see, currently he is at 40k HPS, 30k DPS, so he should have ample threat on all these awakened enemies.
Yeah, it's something where the people who are inside the boss arena as well need to make sure they do as good a job as possible of not taking any extra damage, right? Because if you take extra damage, you're going to need to do extra healing to yourself, and that extra healing to yourself can cause the threat problems that we saw yesterday. You actually saw something interesting here on pull as well from Perplexed. The anti-magic shells were popped right on pull. They have this talent actually selected that makes their anti-magic shell at 11 seconds instead of 6, and that is allowing them, I imagine, to get an extra anti-magic shell in this fight to be effective. What was the thing you noticed?
Zamak's kiting route was also a little bit different from what we saw yesterday. He was making sure that he was really keeping Urgroth on a tight leash. Like, most of the time you'll see Urgroth be within 30, 40, 50 yards of the player, but he was really trying to cut it close to make sure Urgroth doesn't just snap back to the group.
Yeah, he was doing a little bit of like a snake pattern. You have to be so careful. Though. This is the part in the path where Urgroth gets the farthest from him. And so he's needing to just make sure that he doesn't get too far away, because you get too far away and Urgroth can snap to you and then end you, as he usually does to tanks. But Zamak looks like he's doing okay with this kite so far. Going to be coming up the other end here. Yasma at 27% as well, so almost done there. Hera coming out on that Sky Screamer, 23%. They just have to last a little bit longer, and they'll be able to get through here.
Here comes their second bloodlust of the instance, too. Yasma dropping sub 10%. This is going to be it. Perplex is going to be able to take this match and the series 2-0.
There it is, the last bits of HP winding down for Yasma as Perplexed perfect their kiting route. They make the critical adjustments that they need to, and they're going to be moving on throughout the lower bracket, sending Ethical out of the tournament there.